That's how you're supposed to do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's how it's supposed to go, isn't it? I think.
Actually, there's a show, a podcast, French podcast I listen to, and they always start like with a really kind of outrageous statements, and they go like, "Whoa, the mic was on," and kind of became a running joke. But they do it way better than I do because, well, they're actually funny and I'm not. So,
Right. So quite a lot to get through today.
Yes.
Want to start with episode 10, The Red Angel, or do you want to go through news and everything else?
Well, I haven't kept up with the news really because, well, from what I've seen, like what we've told before, like we told a few minutes ago, like nothing that I didn't really know, but there's a few confirmation or informations. So yeah, let's go with the news. Actually, well, there's a few convention news quickly for convention appearances. I know that there's a few guests that have been announced. Creation, Discovery. Vegas. Some Vegas guests for some Discovery Vegas guests. We'll say it like that. Let me just Creation Star Trek. I know Rika Sharma is going to be there. She has been on the cruise, and she just announced that she will be there. And let's see here. So guests. So we have Anson Mount, and they just also announced Ethan Peck and James Frayne, who James Frayne had to cancel last year. And he hopefully will be able to make it this year to Vegas. If any one of you listening is actually going. So alongside all the usual Star Trek alumni, Jeffrey Combs, Susie Clarkson, Anthony Montgomery, John Connor, Trenier, William Shatner, Anson Mount, Kate Mulgrew. Nichelle Nichols might be her actual last appearance because they're actually doing an event for her last ever convention. I think in the fall or something. Actually, I've seen that around Facebook. So last year I didn't take a chance and I actually took a picture with her, and I'm glad that I did. Yeah, and you have so. But, as it's been just announced today that in my own backyard, Montreal, Quebec, Anson Mount and Ethan Peck has been announced as guests for Montreal Comic-Con. So I guess they're probably using their newly found free time to go around conventions this summer because I've seen them pop. Like they're going, they're doing Birmingham also. In the UK, they're doing shore leave in the Baltimore area in the US, and I think there's been some other convention they've been announced. So they're not for Ethan Peck since it's his first big role. Of course, we never really saw him in conventions before, and even Anson Mount, before his appearance as Pike. Wasn't really a big, Comic-Con Comic-Con guest, but now that he's been on Discovery, he's everywhere these days. In last year, at on my favorite place on Earth, the Ticonderoga, he was a guest at the Shatner. They did a Shatner event at around Christmas time, and he was of course, second build next to William Shatner, because Shatner always has to be on top. Take it as you want. But yeah, so you had an actual event at Ticonderoga with William Shatner and Anson Mount, and actually built the helm console from the Cage just for the occasion, and it's actually now sitting in the transporter room while the transporter console is getting some TLC or Tender Loving Care, TLC.
Yeah.
So, actually, since that console has been used as a transporter console in the cage, if you never realized that, look, keep a close eye. So you have when the transporter room, they just move the helm console to the transporter room, and there you go. You have a transporter console.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. So, if a little tip I discovered last year, if you see those guys in regular conventions, which is like non-Birmingham or not Creation Vegas convention, take your autographs and pictures there, because otherwise they jack up the price when they're at official conventions. I think I mentioned that before, but it's worth, like last year, Soniqua Martin Green and Doug Jones, autograph or a picture, both $60 Canadian. And at Vegas, they were 80. Like, and I remember a picture was $80 US. So, yeah, it's basically 100. We're on 100 or 110 Canadian. So, if you're in the New York area or Vermont, anywhere in the Northeast, might be worth your while to come to Montreal to get some cheap autographs at Montreal Comic Con. So,
how far away is that then from? Obviously, to me, it's like different countries. So.
Oh yeah. Let's say like New York City. Let's say New York City is about, I think, a 6-hour drive. So, if you're New York City, and we ask our good friend Google to Montreal. About 6 hours. Yeah, so it's about a 6-hour drive. It's about 600 kilometers. So yeah, so that's from New York City. So you have Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, Maine, Vermont, even maybe Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan. If you're in that area, might be worth your while. Of course, if you're in Eastern Canada, even better. So,
yeah, I mean, oh god, WonderCon is this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some Trekkie people there. Where are we?
WonderCon. Let's see. Anaheim. Yeah. Let's see. I have guests. Do we have programs and guests? Special guests. Lots of people I don't know.
It's all changed. Yeah, it's all changed. I was on it yesterday. Oh god, what's her name? There's a Discovery panel. If I can find it again now. Inside Discovery Visual Effects Team.
Oh, cool.
It's on Saturday the 30th, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. By the looks of it, there's like 157 people going, as in like going to be in the room. But it's going to be... I can find any more details. You see, it's all changed because obviously we're closer to it now. Yeah. Things changed. I just hate it when like they change their website. Where are we?
Yeah, or they change the schedule. But I've ran conventions, and scheduling is one of the worst parts of it, because nobody's ever happy about their panel time and place.
Okay, yes. So we've got. Who is the writer person thingy that's going to be doing?
Wasn't there a panel with Bo Yan Kim or?
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she will be there. And it doesn't. I don't actually think it says. going to be leading the panel. But another Trek person that will be there is Donny Cates, comic book writer, and he's worked on things like Ghost Rider, Death of the Inhumans, Redneck, Baby Teeth. He's done Thanos, Doctor Strange, Star Trek. So that's another one to look out for. It's really strange. Yeah, they've changed all the web.
But anyway, I don't think a lot of people who watch this are going to go to Anaheim. If you go, let us know. But I guess hopefully we'll get some notes from Twitter and such about what transpires from there. But there was another event actually that happened during the weekend, which actual things, well, kinda transpired. It was the Paley Fest. This time it was in Los Angeles, and there was a whole lot of Discovery crew and some folks from also the Twilight Zone, which is launching in exactly 1 week. Still no news about what I'm really interesting is there's still no news about international distribution for the Twilight Zone.
No. However, I gotta find it now. Dun, dun, dun. On Trek Movie Today.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, they asked about the Picard international distribution. And they said, we're working on it. There's going to be an announcement soon.
News on that will be coming very soon, and he cannot break it. They did say, though, that Picard will definitely be airing this year, because there's been a lot of, lovely rumours and stuff.
Now that the machine has restarted, we have actual stable cast and crew. I kind of see it as they were restarting this ancient machine that needed a lot of oiling and warming up to get up.
And when you mean ancient machine, you don't mean Patrick Stewart, do you?
No, I mean restarting the Star Trek producing machine. That one that was able to crank out so many episodes. Basically they started from scratch, and because the thing with previous Treks, starting from Next Generation, even Next Gen had a lot of standing sets to use. They used a lot of the sets from the movies that were used. Like we mentioned before, when they tore down the warp drive from Star Trek Voyager, they actually found stuff from Star Trek Phase 2, at the deeper layers of the set. So I mean, the machine was already in full swing even by the time TNG was, starting up. Now this time they started from scratch. They had nothing. They had to build everything up. Both in terms of finding the right people, hiring, crew, catering, finding the studio, the design, going they had to start with a new set of design. And now actually they have, even though that show won't be, even though Picard won't be produced in Canada. I'm still angry about that. But I'm pretty sure
tax breaks.
Yeah, tax breaks, and I'm pretty sure Patrick Stewart didn't, want to go in, through winter and stuff. If you have the choice, if you're a producer and your name is Patrick Stewart and you have a say in those things, you will choose to film in a place where you won't have any snow and minus 40s with the wind and stuff like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, although having said that, I would have thought, he would kind of be used to it, bearing in mind that.
But actually spent a lot of time in Montreal for the X-Men movie. So he knows Canada, but apparently he prefers sunny California. And as you said, those tax breaks were probably also a big incentive.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was something like 15 million, something like that.
Yeah, $15 million, yeah, as a tax break. So that's quite considerable. Because because California's been losing a lot of a movie and TV, especially to Georgia and Toronto. And actually, it was worse with Vancouver back then. But even Vancouver, I think, lost a lot of mojo because I see more stuff from Georgia and Toronto than from Vancouver these days. Actually, if you watch the X-Files, David Duchovny was tired of BC and actually put his foot down at one point, like in the later season, said like, we're going back to the U.S. and because of him, they brought the production back to the U.S. But yeah, so So Picard is being promised for the end of this year, but they said like they've learned their lesson, and post production and designing takes a lot of time. But I think they're mostly talking about Section 31 when I read that.
According to so many,
because for Section 31, when asked about it, he said like it's gonna they're hopeful for that to start when they're done shooting season 3 of Discovery. So I feel bad for Boyan and Erica because there's gonna be a non-stop for them, like starting now.
Yeah,
because they're starting writing the 3rd season. They're planning their spin-off, which the 3rd season will most likely be the jumping off point for. So they're going to be working on season 3. They're working on writing both season 3 and the spin-off, and then they're going to have to be on set for Discovery for some supervising stuff, and they also,
Yeah, although having said that, I mean, when asked when Kurtzman was expecting it to drop, whether it'd be 21 or 22, he said, I would say 21 or maybe 20 or 22, maybe 21. So I reckon it'd probably be
22.
Very late. Yeah,
very
late 21 or early, or early 22, one of the two. I wouldn't say it's going to be a let's see if we can push it out, because I mean, I'm just trying to think what we know. 19 season 3 will be next year, so that'll be 20. And if I'd probably say late 21, early 22. But that's all depending on if they
Picard gets the second season, and
and if Discovery gets the season 4, it's a case of will they keep pushing it back, because I mean at the moment it's not even been greenlit. They've not even got a.
But I have no fear for them to get greenlit. I think it's just I mean
there's no series order, but then normally a script an outline has to be done first before a series order can be given. So
one thing at a time.
No, it's going to be cancelled.
Oh God! I mean, because Picard is actually happening in the Kelvin timeline, right? Or the Prime, because you can't say original timeline because Prime is a new subset of the Kelvin, and oh God. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I got banned from posting and joining groups for 24 hours on Facebook, and it was kind of funny because I was reading some of the comments and stuff, and normally I would just post a face palm or something. It was quite liberating, just sitting back reading and looking and seeing what people were commenting, and it's just like.
Yeah, honestly, I've stopped trying. Like, I feel like screaming into the void. At this point,
So more Picard news. he faces a gauntlet in the psychological new Trek series. It's going to be completely different to Discovery, which we already knew anyway.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are taking that as it's going to be different in looks and feel and stuff like that. Now, I think it's going to be different in the respects that obviously it's going to be 25th century technology, but I also think it's going to be very much, well, it's not going to be TNG 2.0. You know, that's pretty obvious. But I think it'll have some very same undertones in the way it looks and stuff like that. I don't think it's going to be, you know, moving back. Does that make sense? You know, moving back to 90s Trek, which...
You're not going back to beige.
Beige. Hospital beige. Have you noticed that every hospital was always painted in that horrible beige colour that you just think to yourself, you know, it's true, isn't it? Hospital beige. He was moved upon hearing Stewart read the first episode. He sat at Patrick's kitchen table and had him read the first episode, and he almost cried.
Well, wouldn't you? I mean, come on. It's the first time in 15 years that you see Patrick Stewart reprising an iconic role, and you had, you know, you're the one who managed to bring him into it. I mean, of course. I mean, I would. I mean, that's definitely something to be proud of. I can understand getting emotional about it.
Oh no, I mean, I can just hearing Patrick Stewart's voice more than anything, because he's got that. What was it I saw the other day? Someone likened him to a white version of Morgan Freeman, not because he's got that voice, hasn't he? So it's kind of like
he
the
does.
whole, you know, he's such a recognisable voice as well. I mean, there's another in the UK that he does some voiceover work for like Sky Movies, and it started at Christmas, and as soon as I saw the advert, I knew who, you know, it's just that voice.
It's
so yeah. They're still very tight-lipped on anything really about, you know, the themes and anything
actually,
like that. So.
I'm really surprised how like they've been able to keep things really tight since the first season of Discovery. I think they've learned their lesson on how to contain information.
The awful picture that had sent Facebook and social media into a meltdown because it was like, they're not the Klingons.
There's one. There's the Jonathan Frakes saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to Mirror Universe," when like he clearly should not have. So, even though there were like other hints, because there were some promo pictures taken on the bridge, and you could clearly see like a plaque which says like ISS Discovery.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, those were dead giveaways, but you know, we still, you know, you never knew. But yeah, anyway, so this year's mystery is still tight, and even now that we have some kind of like an answer to one question, we're still like, what the hell's going on? So I mean,
it's very curious as well, because I mean, I understand things being kept under wraps, you know, up in Vancouver and stuff like that, because you know, it's not in the mainstream sort of area, but because they're filming in Santa Monica, you know, I would have thought that there was, you know.
Well, we'll see. Anyway, it's not like you know, maybe once they start shooting, we'll have more. I know that's what happened for Discovery. It's like once they started shooting, announcement came like regularly. And,
no, I'm kind of hoping, you know, so.
You know, so. Otherwise, like apparently, also the disco cast says season 2 ending will change everything.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, you know, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I'm more intrigued about
Yeah.
what it could be, sort of thing. It's. I mean, what do you think? Because
I
I mean,
mean,
they
we
say
have a USS Discovery stuck in 1,000 years in the future, so anything's possible at this point. Between the point where we have him now and the point where we find a Discovery in Calypso,
Mm.
The crew could be transported in Picard's time for all we know.
Do you think?
I don't know. Maybe.
Mm.
I'd find that surprising though, because with all the sets, I don't think they'd want to build. I don't think they want to rebuild different sets for So
No, I mean, there's a lot of theories out there. Burnham dying, and he's one. The other one is them being transported into the future. There's things like that. Don't know.
Well, maybe that now they will have, with the Picard show, they will know what kind of look to give to the 24th or 25th century in their new artistic vision. I mean, maybe, but I'm not entirely convinced. I think there's going to be some kind of retcon element, since we have Timey Wimey stuff involved with a certain Red Angel. I mean, who knows?
Yeah,
But
I mean, one of the biggest theories out there is people seem to think that they're going to, a bit like Battlestar Galactica. You know what I mean by that, don't you? Like in the reboot Battlestar Galactica, instead of everything being all automated and everything like that, they kind of like de-evolve the tech.
I could see that. I think there's a certain part of that message in what we've seen so far, especially dealing with automated decisions from artificial intelligence, which is a subject that reaches us even today when we talk about algorithms, especially with YouTube these days, and after what happened in Christchurch. But yeah. I can see that happening, but I don't think it's going to take like the turn that people will expect in terms of look and feel of TOS. People will hardcore would hope that everything's erased and it's all back to plywood and 1960s
paper
sets.
mache.
People need to learn to manage their expectations. God, because of course they won't. And the only reason that look stayed for 50 years is because the only times we've seen that look in the past is for, like we said it before, just for winks and for like how do you say that, for Easter eggs, a nice, sometimes very large, but still Easter egg. You wouldn't do a whole season even in 1995, let's say, if they would have had decided to make a series set, let's say, I don't know, 25 years, maybe not 25. Let's say like during Kirk's 5-year mission, or like a few years after or before, even in 1995, they would have had to build a new look for that show. They would have to.
I mean, they essentially were going to, weren't they? When they were planning out Phase 2, it was obviously not as grandiose in its look and design as the motion picture.
It was a TV budget. Well, very big TV budget, but
it was still very much
TOS.
different. Yeah,
yeah.
But it did look different,
Oh yeah, it did look different. Yeah, but we've talked about it in the past, and the motion picture is a visual reboot. Gene Roddenberry wasn't even trying to hide it. He was quite the revisionist himself. deciding that that never happened. That I don't care about that, and and he'll write boobs somewhere because he likes.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is the Klingon look was updated, wasn't it? For,
yeah. And
so...
it was updated like from TOS to TMP, and even from TMP to Star Trek 3, there's been like a few enhancements, and I think like even like some minor changes also when they came onto, like if you look at Worf's head, look at the evolution of Worf's head. I don't think those kinds of changes would have gone through with today's audiences who care so much about every tiny like detail. Like, can you imagine?
No, I do think people would probably lose their cool. But then I don't know. I mean, are we just nitpicking, or is it because I mean?
Well,
sometimes I read some of the
we're the kind of nitpickers who have fun doing so.
Yeah.
With no ulterior motive. We're just like, that's different. Oh, that's that's nice. And we're doing that. We're doing that in good, healthy spirit. There's a difference when you're doing that just to be mean, just to try to demean the production, and just to trying to prove a point just because you want to wave your huge giant dick on the internet.
Oh, it's so true. But no, I mean, it's like I said to someone the other day. I can't remember what's going with that now. No, it literally just popped into my head, and then as soon as I started saying it, it went. If it comes back to me, I'll say. But anyway, so yeah, so moving on.
Anything else interesting happened? Not really. I mean, from what I've seen, it's again like give me some news, Star Trek. Come on.
Yeah, I mean,
we still have no names for the upcoming 3 episodes.
No,
like we have this week's, which is Perpetual Infinity, but after that, the last 3 episodes still no names. So they're most likely going to drop by next week, hopefully. Otherwise, let's see. Who do we have?
I think the most interesting. No, I mean, there's again. I mean, I'm not nitpicking. I'm like picking through the articles written by Trek Movie. I mean, Ethan Peck can't say whether he's back for season 3. He can't say whether there's been discussions of a spin-off with Pike and Number 1. Or even a short track.
But can we have too much Spock? Oh well, by the way, speaking, today is Leonard Nimoy's birthday, so
it is indeed.
He would have been 88. So he died in 2015. So yeah, let's have a bold thought for the guy. Very talented actor. Actually, if you go, I don't know if it's in the UK, but on Amazon Prime, I've seen on their streaming video platform, there's a one-man play featuring Leonard Nimoy playing Vincent Van Gogh brothers, his brother. I think it's like set a week after Van Gogh's death, and it's basically Leonard Nimoy playing his brother. Remembering Vincent's life and stuff like that. I've only seen part of it so far, but it's really, really powerful, and I highly suggest it. It was shot, I think, in 1982, so you'll have that vintage VHS look on the screen.
Yep, it's Leonard Nimoy in Vincent. And it's included with Prime, so yeah, it's here as well.
So yeah, if you want to see Nimoy in something else, I highly recommend that. You can also see some Nimoy in the later episodes of the original series of Mission Impossible. And what else has been?
He was in the Twilight Zone as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, basically everyone in the 60s had an episode in Twilight Zone. Almost. I think there's
so
also
funny.
the guy who played Sulu. Oh my god, I'm a bad Trekkie. George Takei. George Takei had an episode also in the Twilight Zone back then. By the way, yeah, they're actually remaking an episode, the classic episode, Shatner's classic episode in the new Twilight Zone series. So the original was Terror at 20,000 Feet, featuring William Shatner. And I think the first or second episode, which will be aired April 1st, 2019, will be Terror at 30,000 Feet, featuring Adam Scott, which you might know from Parks and Recreation. If you don't...
And Krampus. He was in Krampus.
I have not seen that.
No,
Actually, look up. Adam Scott produced something very interesting. He produced 4 shorts for I think it was for Adult Swim, called "The Greatest Event in Television History," where they redo they redo like TV intros from like 80s TV sitcoms, and like they have this big segment of behind the scenes, which is totally crazy, and it's all made up stories, and like they always go crazy, and John Hamm dies and then comes back as a ghost, and it's really weird, and I kind of like Adam Scott. But anyway, I digress. We were talking about Nimoy, yeah. So yeah, go from one thing to another, and then but yeah, Nimoy. He and also in in a TV show that was also produced by Mr. Kurtzman, I believe, Fringe. So one of his last TV appearances was in Fringe. A really good show as far as I can hear. A lot of people. I never got hooked on it, but I kept hearing good things about it. So one day I might come back. Who knows? But yeah, so that's for your daily dose of Leonard Nimoy on his birthday.
So, going back quickly to news.
Oh yeah, well they said the Nickelodeon thing was actually happening.
Yeah.
Or they're still like, I think they're still kind of negotiating a few like final details, but they're able to say like Nickelodeon. And they mentioned the producer's name, so... the
Hagemans are amazing, and they are really wonderful too. And
again, it's stuff
yes, this was it. Any comments on the Starfleet Academy or Car series that have previously been reported in development? And Alex Cartman, he just says, can't tell you.
Yeah. So, well, we'll see. But anyway, yes, so yes, a lot of non-news, but just kind of nice to hear Alex Kurtzman acknowledging a few things.
Yes, like season 2 finale will eventually address everyone's criticism. So basically, he said, "We are entirely aware of everyone's questions and criticisms. I've read everything, and I see where everyone likes. Well, the spore drive never existed, and what Discovery was never around, and all of those things. They're totally aware, and you will get an answer."
They're like, guys, they know what they're surprise and shock and terror, but they know what they're doing.
Yeah, Anthony Rapp expanded on it and said, "I think the last 4 episodes will really close the circle for people if we've done our job." What was on this page? I haven't seen them yet. So basically, they're hoping that everything, why everything looks so different, will be wrapped up in this series too.
I think, again, it's a part of the process of shedding off the Brian Fuller weirdness. Again, I think they're still in the process of doing.
This bit's a bit interesting. Everyone's assuming that Pike and Spock and Number One will just get been back to the Enterprise, blah, 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 blah. Kurtzman, we will sync up with canon, and obviously if you know the story of Captain Pike, you know where his fate was. It won't be exactly what you think this season, but will be consistent with that story. There will be a dimension shed on the story that you will not have known or thought of. And then Heather Caden said, if anything, it's not going to feel like a send-off, because I think that's what everyone thinks is going to happen. I think it will become incredibly clear why he's not continuing on, because he has to go to do TOS. So we have to make sense.
I think Pike knew that he was going to have that accident.
You think?
Yeah, I mean, it's the classic predestination paradox. Like, I have to... in order for X to happen, I have to do Y, and which is sacrifice my beautiful face and thoughts, and well, not his thoughts, but basically, like, he has. We've seen that in sci-fi before, like knowing years before that you will have to sacrifice yourself at a certain point to allow things to go forward. And I think, honestly, it would bring, if Spock and Pike both know what's going to happen in 9 years forward, I mentioned that before, but it would bring a nice sense of purpose for what we've seen in the Menagerie episode, where we just have Spock, which we always kind of thought was under the will of he wasn't really under the will of the Telosians in that episode. Like, his action, he knew what he was doing then, and like into bringing Pike to Talos 4, and it's like it's that feeling I've seen in sci-fi before. Like, he was there with a purpose that's been planned way before, and he's just like he's just chugging along the predestination paradox kind of thing. That's if you look at Babylon 5, they've done that also with the whole thing with the other station going back in time, and they have to
Babylon 4. You see, a lot of people slate Babylon 5, but I honestly think it's one of the best pieces of written TV that there ever has been.
Yeah, well, it's getting a lot of rep back these days.
It's a lot of talk for a reboot or that sort of thing.
I think that's one I don't want. If J. Michael Straczynski is not involved, I will. Like, he's like that series was a one-man show. Like, season 4 was entirely written by him.
Yeah, he's touched on this before when people have brought it up, and he's actually been quite open with it. A reboot or a remake will never be made, not even a Blu-ray edition, because Warner Brothers will not allow him to touch the IP.
Wow, okay, that's harsh.
Now, whether that means that they've got plans for it, because if you remember, probably about 5 years ago, there was talk of a reboot on the big screen. So
there was talk
possible.
for Battlestar Galactica, not Babylon 5.
No, there was for Babylon 5.
Really?
Yeah, back in 2000 and...
Never heard about it. But then again, it might be a good thing. I'd be more curious about because they kept promising a Battlestar Galactica movie. An actual movie, not just like a TV movie with the... with Edward James Olmos.
Yeah, you see, I mean, I can't really fault the reboot of Battlestar Galactica.
That was what's his name? The writer, Ronald D. Moore's way of putting away all the angst and frustration that he lived through on Star Trek Voyager, because he had a short stint after DS9 ended. He was put on Voyager, and like he felt so trapped and unable to do anything meaningful that he kind of
doesn't surprise me, because I mean, one thing that a lot of people have been crying out for is like back to like the episodic format. of Star Trek.
Which is going backwards. You don't go backwards.
Yeah, well, it's not even so much that. I mean, the whole point of TV nowadays, even when you've got filler episodes in some of the CW shows, you know, like The Flash and Supergirl and Arrow and stuff like that, there's always that recurring theme on the underline. You know, there's always something else revealed and stuff like that. And I think that's kind of... Well, I mean, we got 14 episodes this season. And The Flash and Supergirl and the Arrow and things like that still, you know, I don't even think Legends do. I think Legends only get 16. But they still get 22 episode season orders. So there's going to be more filler episodes. But I think the good
Arrow,
thing about...
like for its last season, is cutting back also.
Yeah, I think that's only 10 episodes.
Yeah.
But my point is basically the way that season 2 of Discovery has worked is they've kind of found a nice niche, I think, because there's been and I remember talking to you about this, that there's been quite a few episodes where I've been move the story.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that was because I was so used to in season 1 where everything was so fast paced, and it was literally on the edge of your seat because you know it was almost like bang, 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 bang with everything. And season 2, they've kind of, I don't want to say missed an opportunity to carry that on, but you know, now we're getting into the back half of the season, is kind of picking up. I think they found a nice niche for it, but you know, with a few standalone episodes, but still continuing the story. But I think they need to move back slightly and kind of like half and half it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because
actually,
the beginning half of the season, I think, was more slow paced. It was more episodic format. It was, you know, reintroducing everyone again, which I think was kind of the idea after such a dark season 1 and, you know, that sort of thing. But I don't know.
But you see, even like I'm looking up even Flash, like for next season, like for now, I only see like 10 episodes for the upcoming season. I think even Flash? For Flash, which like season 5 had like 22 episodes. So I think maybe TV producers are trying to... I think it's a trend in TV. Like, I don't know, maybe it's something with the writers and... But, yeah.
I'm looking at that now because I thought it was... I know Legends finishes next season as well, I think.
But because you see, look at Flash season 6. I look at... Yeah, IMDb is usually good with at least episode counts. And, like, I see, like, 10 episodes, so... Well, we'll see.
Yes.
Could be
as
surprised.
far as news-wise, really, there's not anything else. I mean, so we've covered Trek news of the week, Picard news, WonderCon. So yes, this past week's episode, a lot of people have said it missed the boat. What do you think?
A little bit. It felt like a filler episode to me, honestly. I think it was nice in a few ways. It was nice in lots of character moments, lots of interaction. Love the interaction between Stamets, Georgiou, Tilly, and Culber was.
Oh, that was hilarious.
Weird. It was like, can you call me Poppy?
Yeah.
First time I have to go to Urban Dictionary to make sure I understood something properly on Star Trek. It was nice to hear gay and poly. It was
pansexual. Yeah.
Pansexual mentioned on screen, like for us gay men, it's kind of nice to to again feel represented. Doesn't like it really struck a chord last year with me but I'm not as emotional about it this year, but it's still very nice to hear the actual word being spoken out, even though like a lot of people said, like, in the future will such a word be necessary and stuff. I said I stopped worrying about it. It's being written in the 21st century with
Yeah, a lot of people were accusing the show of pandering and things like that, and it's just like I just think to myself, well, fuck off.
There you go. I mean, I think by the 23rd century, I can understand the fact that the question of identity, both sexual and otherwise, will be totally different once we find its extraterrestrial life outside the in the universe and find new ways to get jiggy with it.
Well, I mean, you've also got to bear in mind. I mean, I think Star Trek has touched on this in a very well thought out manner. I mean, you've got Star Trek: Undiscovered Country. Kirk kicks the alien in the knee.
Yeah.
He automatically assumes that you're bad knee sort of thing. You find out that's where who's your father is. Who's your father?
I can only imagine rubbing knees to have sex.
Yeah, that kind of wild. Anyway, you also then have the episode Cogenitor in Enterprise, where you have the three sexes. You've got the Outcast in TNG, where no one has a sexual orientation, but they kind of touched on the whole transgender issue there and stuff like that. So I mean, Star Trek has never really been one to shy away from.
Well, they shied away from addressing it head on, and that's something we can hold against Rick Berman directly, because he's been one to flat out refuse anything overtly that touches overtly about homosexuality, and the only reason we had the kiss in DS9 was because it was two women.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
So yeah, and honestly, as much it's funny. You look. You would talk to people. 10, 12 years ago, would tell a fan, what do you think of Rick Berman? And then you would, basically, spit on the ground, say, he ruined Star Trek. And you would talk to the same people now, today.
Oh, yeah.
The tune would be entirely different.
He was the savior of everything.
Yeah, and, he did a good job of keeping Trek. But thing is, he had no vision. And that's the thing. That guy, before producing for Star Trek, was a TV executive. He was not a TV producer. He was a TV executive in charge of scheduling and stuff like that. And he was a pencil pusher. He had no creative vision. And as much as you want to hate Alex Kurtzman for what he does, at least he has a creative background. He's able to produce and create and have ideas, and he's not afraid to dare and try stuff. He will not be a Rick Berman and try to stay in a safe zone. He will. That's what I get from Kurtzman anyway. He's not one to shy away from. Taking people out of the comfort zone.
He has a lot, sort of in his corner, so to speak, in regards to what he's produced and made, and specifically now he's doing quite a lot for CBS and stuff like that in the terms of things like Hawaii 5.0. So he has the background.
And I will repeat it. He's not done all bad things. If you look at his, people will only remember the atrocious things, like the Mummy and Transformers and stuff. But then you remember he produced Fringe, he produced Alias, he produced a little bit of Hercules and Xena. He produced, he's produced a lot of other good stuff. But people will just not remember that. He will only remember the crap stuff.
To be honest with you, I didn't ever really think that he did The Mummy. I didn't realise he was involved in that. He
actually directed The Mummy.
Did he?
Yeah, but he went on an interview and said basically the studio ruined the movie. Like, but you know, who can really know? But but also, he produced the Transformers Prime series, which actually apparently was the best of all the Transformers series.
Yeah,
maybe apart from the original, but
Generation 1 Transformers.
Yeah,
is the one that's mostly kind of like
buy toys.
No, it wasn't, because then, I mean, unless it was over, in the States and places like that, there wasn't a lot over here. But it was more true to the original than any other show that they've ever done.
Well, that's because the show was based on the toys. Like, they had toys and they had to put them on the show. So, I mean, basically at that point they were creating the original. There was no like original story. They were making it up as they went in G1. So,
yeah. So I mean, Transformers Prime is a prime example of of what he can do. So yes, I mean, this episode, I think it was a case of I was a little bit, but that the shock reveal at the end, I think, is what made the episode. To be honest with you, I think that it wasn't expected, And when I first saw it, until she said, "Mum," I just thought it was like an aged Burnham.
Yeah.
But
it's like the last two episodes felt like they were putting their pieces on the checkboard. Not, last week we had like the mines and the shock of losing Ariam, and this week we have, the attempting killing of Burnham and then the reveal of her mother. Like, the rest of the episode is really all character moments, and I think it's a good thing. I think it's just like the plan was kind of to me, but then again, when you're playing with time travel, it always gets weird. Like, if there were, because the thing is, I still don't get why she would be involved in the plan to kill her, if like in the future she would know that they would try to get, that's still, it's weird.
Yeah, I mean, that's another reason why I think, for me, it was more of a moment, oh, it's you. And I think, it was kind of a good thing it wasn't, because then they would have had to spend time of like, well, why doesn't she know? Is this a paradox? She's from a future where,
it was well put out. It was well thought out behind the scenes by the writers. It was well thought out by the characters. It was a crapshoot. And honestly, I can live with that. We're not dealing with characters who were particularly, like, they've experienced a little bit of time travel when the spore drive kind of hicked them up to like 9 months later. But they never like went like Voyager time travel, or like they never did a lot of timey wimey stuff. So
one thing I'm a little bit about is a time crystal.
Those are actually a thing, apparently.
Yeah.
Even though it's not really as as easy as what it is, but it's still like a real term, maybe not a real thing. But and again, I understand, but it was still used it was still a callback to last year with.
Oh no, I know. But that episode kind of made sense. The fact that it had like a short jump to it. This seems to be a little bit. I hope they kind of expand on how this certain time crystal can do something that Mud's time crystal couldn't. But I'm not going to get hung up on it. I'm not going to be like, well, they didn't explain it. They didn't.
Thing is, we can say like, I don't like it. I don't care much for it, but I'll go along with it because it's a TV show.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie and say that, that certain things, will annoy me if they don't, explain it and stuff like that. Because one thing I have always liked about Star Trek, even though in Voyager it just got really, really repetitive and boring, was the explanation of certain things, But I think that Discovery has done it in kind of good way in regards that they don't techno-babble their way out of everything.
There's that, and actually I think it's, because if they take time to explain everything, it becomes heavy. And there are things that I think, because if you feel the need, you have to explain everything in your show. It means you're not doing something right in terms of writing.
Yeah, I mean, I think someone made a very good comment about it the other day in regards to that's kind of why we had the captain's log, because obviously, everything started, middled, and ended within 44 minutes. And I think one of the main reasons is why, you had the captain's log, because you kind of needed like filler.
Well, at least some context as to what's going on.
Yeah,
and you don't need that much. You don't need that much context this season, because you pretty much can go along with what's going on. There's still a few gaps, and we actually had a few personal encounters logs this year, but that's because that's the thing is, if Trekkies are supposed to be one of the most intelligent fandoms out there, we're supposed, we're supposed to be able to fill some gaps when, like, and that's, and that's what we do. That's what fandom does, is we fill the gaps. And again, that's a job for David Mack and Dayton Ward and Una McCormack, and that's what novel authors thrive on, filling the gaps. So, leave gaps, not too many, or not too wide, but do feel, what
do you think Leland? Everyone, I thought he was dead.
No, he's back he's back this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's, I think, like, future nanoprobes, something like that. He's been visibly, like, he had kind of a little effect on in the veins, kind of like when the Borg assimilates people. So I feel like basically he's going to be the embodiment of control from the future, because obviously they failed in closing the time wormhole in time for the AI not to jump along with the Red Angel.
I just don't want Borg. I just.
Oh no, yeah, but nanoprobes are still, again, still a concept, general sci-fi concept that's actually been used in Star Trek before the Borg came along. Our friend Wesley Crusher had a few of them running around.
Oh, well, yeah, nanites, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
use nanites instead of nanoprobes. There you go. So
yeah, please do, because it's just the more... That's not me being like, right, you will. It's just the more and more I think about it, it's just like... Even though the Enterprise episode Regeneration in Season 2, I like that episode. There's something about it. I don't know whether it's because it kind of like... It's a kind of like a semi-follow-up to First Contact. I'm not sure, but I like the episode. But it felt so shoehorned in, because we knew the Borg. We knew the Borg to death. One of the good things I think about the first episode that they were introduced, Q Who, was because they were new, they were mysterious, they were like something that we'd never seen before. And then obviously we got Best of Both Worlds. And I kind of think that, the way that TNG dropped the Borg in favour of Alien of the Week sort of thing was kind of a bit of a kick in the nuts sort of thing. And when First Contact came out, an amazing film. I think I saw that like 15 times in the cinema, that sort of thing. And then obviously we got it in Voyager. And then Voyager kind of like dumbed down the Borg, with the fact that they could just blow them up every 5 seconds and stuff like that. And then obviously we got Enterprise, and it was kind of like a new and interesting twist on it.
No,
it's
no,
been
I agree,
it's
actually.
been done to death. It really has been done to
Yeah.
death, and I think I'll
And
go
that-
along with it because it's Star Trek, and
Yeah.
it's one of those things that I just think to myself, well, if they do, it'll be interesting to see what they
But
do.
it
but
will, I can assure you, again, it will not be Borg. It will not be the Borg. So far, Discovery has remained internally consistent. They're using elements from their own, from their own show. Like for the Red Angel, like it could have been, I don't know, future Janeway or future whatever or something. Could have been anyone, but they went with something that was internally consistent with their own storyline, and I think that's how they roll. Because otherwise it would have been way out of the left field, and even for big shock reveals like that, you still have to plant some seeds, to plant some. So some forwarding and stuff, but like there was, so that's why I say, like, if it was any kind of thing Borg related, we would have had some hints.
I hope so. I really do.
So
And that's...
again, so what I think is just like basically he's been injected with nanites, and basically because in the write-up for the episode, so like Georgiou and Tyler are suspicious of Leland because he's acting different. So basically, he's been taken over by the AI and whatever. So basically, Skynet. So so it's not the Borg, but it's kind of like Skynet.
You see, I can be down with that. I don't really have a problem with it being an AI that has taken control of that sort of thing.
It's a kind of subject that Star Trek hasn't really done, like an AI as per itself. They've done robots, they've done Borg, but we've seen like the torpedoes from Voyager, but even then, like some kind of corporeal form. But like AIs as we know them today, like threat assessment and stuff like that, like AIs that are more consistent with what we have today, and again put in with the sci-fi kicker in the 24th century and beyond. I'm down with that, and that's what they're taking a modern concept and just putting a sci-fi twist to it.
Yeah, I really do hope that it's something.
As long as we don't have...
just because I can remember the guy behind the makeup saying that how he would love to tackle the Borg. That's just what keeps going, and I just keep thinking to myself, don't you dare, don't you dare, don't you dare.
Maybe he's gonna be able to do that with the Star Trek Picard show, and there's gonna be a flashback to like his time with the Borg, or like he's gonna have like a hallucination or a dream involving Borg, and then he'll be able, and then the makeup guy will be able to have a blast.
Yeah, I kind of just really don't want it to be just a big rehash of everything. The slight difference. It would be nice, but we'll see.
I think Borg, for the Picard show, Borg will definitely be mentioned. They were a big part of his life.
Yeah, even as far
as
to like Nemesis, you could tell that he never really completely recovered from it. Yeah. So I do think it's going to be a very interesting thing to see whether he's fully recovered, so to speak, and whether it plays any sort of throwback to
but but coming back to the actual episode, honestly, like beyond the moment between like in engineering, there was the Admiral Cornwell playing actual therapist, which was an interesting, and I think her saying that love is a constant effort was really meaningful to me. Well, to me anyway. I found it meant a lot to me, and I found that really interesting. And I remember I was with my boyfriend, and look, it was a nice moment between us watching that, and I'm still holding hopes for Culber and Stamets to be brought back together. It won't be. It's going to be an ordeal. It's going to be hard, but I think they're going to be able to. I think it's all on Culber. You know, Culber has to go through some stuff, and he's visibly this week's episode showed that he was actually ready to start living again. You know,
I kind of wanted to smack Stats when he was like, I don't think it'll ever be the time. It's just like, oh, come on. You're the one that was like trying to jump all over him when he just came back, you know.
But, you know, it was a normal thing for Stamets to do. I mean, your boyfriend's come back from the dead. Of course you're going to be all over him. But, you know, after what he's gone through, I kind of understand what he said to Culber. But I think maybe that interaction is going to, like, because we've seen that at that point, Culber was ready to talk and to, but obviously it was, you know, the worst time to be talking personal issues with. But it was nice to see some openness from Culber, and because you know I find it really. Again, I keep mentioning Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because I've been re-binging the whole Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. thing, and we have the same issue. Well, kind of the same issue. We have like someone who's been dead for a relatively long time.
I've seen halfway up to that, so yeah.
Yeah, but you know, Agent Coulson, you know, he died.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were going to start telling me about
no. I mean, I'm
like later on in season 5, and I was going to be like, no, shut up.
No, I'm only like season 2, and I remember watching only up to season 3, but that's why I'm restarting Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. back. But then again, I mean, there's some common themes here between if you look at Agent Coulson on one hand and Culber on another, and they both, you know, the dealing with coming back to life. And I honestly think the way Star Trek's doing it is a very interesting way, because in this specific case, he's got a new body and he's adapting. You know, it's kind of like it's hard enough to lose a limb and to have like the phantom, like the phantom pain of like the missing limb. Imagine with the whole body.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
it's got to be kind of.
Yeah, it's got. But anyway, so far I've really found it interesting, and the way it's been approached is it shows a lot of care by the writers, and they're not going to make it easy for us or for the characters, but it's certainly interesting for the actors.
Yeah, I was reading as well that they don't think that this will be resolved this series. So
yeah, well, there's only 4 episodes so far. But you know, one thing interesting, I've seen Culber for the next episode. He was in his full white uniform, like he's back on duty. Although I gotta say, this week he was really well dressed. Like he has this, you know, little jacket and little my little shirt, you know, button shirt and stuff. And
yeah.
he actually mentioned something on Twitter about the chain he was wearing. That's something that meant balance to him, like the actor. And thankfully, Gersha Phillips approved, and it went, it went along with him. So, but yeah, he was really sharply dressed, I gotta say.
I do think it'd be kind of interesting to see how he moves forward.
Yeah.
I think it'll be something that's... Because, I mean, the thing with PTSD is you don't... It's not just like an illness that you get over or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's constant reminders of what happened and stuff like that. So it'll be kind of interesting to see whether he takes it to the next level in terms of how he treats his patients. You know, see whether he's not as compassionate or less compassionate, but to see if he's kind of like, well, you know, I died, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, does that make sense? So kind of like I don't know. I'm going to be very interested to see how it develops. And
but yeah, another interesting thing. I think Sonique was shown some great acting this week, and both her, the way she's reacted to Leland telling her about her parents, and that scene in with Spock in the gym. And even before, like when Spock was telling about like how she feels the need to, be the hero and get involved in everything, like the way she looks at him, and thanks for sharing that with the class, Spock. It's like
some of that was there was kind of a lot of comic relief, I think, in this week's episode, which I think was quite good. One of my favourite parts was Tilly, where she said, "Oh my God, what just happened?" But where she walked into the ready room and she was like, these doors kind of like pretty much open themselves most of the time, sort of thing. It was kind of not so much comic relief for her, but I think it was also a fact that it's kind of true, isn't it? I mean, all throughout Star Trek, it's always been the door just opens as you walk towards it. It's kind of like. So I kind of think it was maybe like a little bit of a poke at that sort of thing, because it's something that kind of always I thought to myself, okay, yeah, well they do like ring a doorbell, that sort of thing, But what stops you just walking through? Does it make sense? It's just like
but it's it's powered by the will of the director. That's the power of the doors. It's.
I do think one thing that was a little bit forced this week though was her interaction with Ash. A
little bit.
That's kind of like, I mean, we knew that there was feelings there, but it was kind of like, well, where's this come from? Because she was kind of like cold towards him at the beginning of the season. They were more friends, and when they broke up at the end of last series, it was even though they kissed in in the last episode, and it was more of
is he really done with the mother of Klingons? So
I found that a little bit. But then I suppose if she was just going to go and kill herself, because that's pretty much what it was.
Yeah,
maybe she could find compassion in it. I mean, what do you think about the whole Georgiou and everyone trying to jump in to save her? And do you think that was Spock willfully stopping them because he knew that the only way to get the Red Angel to appear was she had to die?
Yeah, Spock knows stuff. Like he had some contact with the Red Angel, so I don't know. But I'll refer you back to the way he acted in the Menagerie. Like Spock is able to act in a in a mutiny, in a mutineer fashion when he really wants to, and really when he feels justified and 100% certain of what he's doing is right. And again, he was right in what he's done, so he obviously avoided court-martial. But Spock, Spock will only act in this way when he 100% certain of what he's doing. So it stays, it's still harsh for the character, but it's still well within his character to pull off a stunt like that. It was interesting. It was interesting to see Georgiou being taken aback by it a little bit.
I was really shocked about how but I suppose it was kind of expected, really, because she's been trying to forge a bond with Michael, I think, since the beginning of the series. But I was kind of taken aback about how she obviously looked like she gave a shit, because she puts across this whole, I don't give a shit, everyone should do, this, that, or the other.
My thing is, Burnham is her only link to the mirror. Her only thing that she feels she can not control, but it basically, it's like if you're going to switch universes and she's like the parent. She's like a parent you knew, that you thought you'd lost, and then you found again. Even though it's a different universe, you're still gonna care for them deeply. So I think there's that thing there between them, and she's obviously, what annoys me is people keep, referring to her as like Space Hitler, but
I don't even get me started on that.
What I like about a character is because it's a question of nurture versus nature. She's been brought up in in an environment where it was okay and normal behavior to do such things, and now she's been thrown off into a different kind of environment where her kind of ruthless can still be of use, but is not necessary all the time, and she's adjusting to it. And I think Burnham is her way to getting adjusted to, because since Burnham is something she can actually care about, it's her link to her newfound humanity and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be an interesting way of. I don't think a redemption, more of a transformation. She still will have done what she's done in the past. There's no way around it. And I think it's going to be kind of, we've said in the past, it's going to be kind of a running joke. But
I just find, to be honest with you, when people compare her to, Hitler sort of thing, it's just, I find that kind of offensive in the sense that, she kind of grew up and did some atrocious things, I guess, and stuff like that. But when someone compares a fictional TV character to someone who committed the crimes that man committed in the name of whatever, I just think to myself, not only is your moral compass fucked up, but you just obviously, you just got no thick. Pretty much, that's how I think about it, because it's just like, a lot of people don't get why I get offended with it and stuff like that, and it's just like, well, mainly, I guess, because of the country I live in and the fact that, we were
blitzed.
It's part of our history, more so than anyone else apart from obviously mainland Europe that, were terrorized, the Germans and stuff like that. But it's just, I just find it really disrespectful. That's me, I guess.
But we're talking about most likely, like, the people saying that are mostly Americans, and the U.S. continent hasn't seen war in what, like, we've seen a few bombs in WW2, but even Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, but nothing compared
Pearl
to
Harbor was way back in the Pacific. So, like, so like there hasn't been like a common, like a 20th century war in our continent, and it shows. Like they say, it shows. But yeah.
Yeah, so, I don't want to speak ill of people over the in America and stuff like that, but it is a case of, you can tell that there has been you've been kind of like shielded from the rest of the world.
Yeah,
I know it sounds horrible, but it is kind of true, because
it is. And I whenever I speak to other folks, I become more and more conscious of that.
And I don't, each country goes through things, but you compare the UK to places. We had through the late 70s, 80s, and early 90s the IRA bombing, just because they wanted to. Before that, obviously, we had the 2 world wars and things like that. So it's all fine when people are saying, "Oh yeah, but you're a small island, blah blah blah." You don't really do it, but it's like, yeah, okay, whatever. So speculation on episode 11, Perpetual Infinity. Now, obviously, we're going to have some timey wimey stuff, but
there's going to be some Klingons involved. I don't know if the Klingons are going to be mostly things from the flashbacks, but although Mary, I can't ever pronounce it. Mary Chiefo.
That's it. Yeah. Do you remember when she posted that video of her and Shazad Latif dancing in the hallways of Discovery? Yeah, she made a point of saying rewatch the video. Now, obviously, dancing to Demi, whatever her face is.
Demi Lovato.
Yeah. Has about as much to do with Star Trek as,
Yeah, I think she was most likely referring to her costume as to where it's different from what we've seen in episode 3, I think. So I think that was like she was just saying like, yeah, I'll be back. Look, I'm wearing a different costume, which was not shown in the episode.
Yeah, so I'm kind of hoping. I don't think it'll be this episode. I think this is going to be more of a filler episode, if I'm honest with you. More of a what happened to Burnham's mum and dad, along with
Well, something's going to happen on the base because Burnham goes like, blow this place to hell. So is it going to be Klingons or is it going to be Leland / Section 31? It could be both.
Could be neither.
They could get their ass saved by Klingons. That would be
possible, I suppose.
Or we could finally see the Enterprise showing up and saving the day. That could be
not yet. Not yet.
Not yet. You think?
Yeah, I think we'll be 13, 14 before we get to see that.
Okay.
I mean, we know because one of the set designers posted something back in December 2018, which I only found the other day, that the Enterprise set has been built, or at least the bridge has been built. So, I mean, that's kind of, a foregone conclusion. We'll see it. But, yeah, I don't think it'll be any more than a fleeting look, maybe. I don't know, but then why would you build a bridge and not a green screen most of it?
Good question. We'll see. Yeah. But, so it was a good. So basically, a good episode for character interaction. Otherwise, kind of meh.
Comedy value, I think, is the biggest thing that I kind of took away from. Apart from finding out the Red Angel, and then be like,
yeah, papi.
Yeah, and then finding the twist at the end. I think it was more of a filler episode with some questionable.
So hopefully this week's episode won't be that much filler. At least we're gonna get some answers, because I still think Michael Burnham, will get into that suit. I still have a feeling.
Well, yeah, because I mean, there's also the whole fact that, as Dr. Korber said, that the bioneural pattern was an exact match for Burnham. Her mother wouldn't have an exact match.
What my theory is that she could have that as a way of locking on to Burnham.
Possible.
Not necessarily. So because they didn't say like 100%. Didn't canonically say like that signature is to have the suit working correctly, or they need the signature for the suit to be working. They just said like there's a perfect match, and it's Burnham's, and it's on. They did a little bit of logic leaps because there are obviously other reasons why you would have such a detailed scan of someone's brain, and the way I see it is since the Red Angel is, we can say that now that Burnham's mom is so attached, is always there for Burnham in her Red Angel suit, is because she's able to lock on to Burnham because she's had Burnham's signature on file, and that could allow her to track Burnham in time and something in Timey Wimey, and I have a sonic screwdriver in my mind, and it's just, there you go. So,
yeah, I'm kind of in two minds of what to think about this next week's episode. I mean, what if? And here's if we know Burnham's mum is in the Red Angel suit, but what about if her dad is the AI?
Oh, okay. That could be.
What about if it is proper mother, daughter, father sort of thing?
Yeah. Could be interesting.
Because we saw in the trailer the views of the Red Angel suit. Now, we saw it being seen through the eyes of another suit.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens if her father got propelled into the future and somehow merged with the suit, or so had to download it, because the Leland said, didn't he, that there was a massive explosion of energy. So what happens,
Anything can happen.
Wrong. Yeah, I'm probably wrong. It's probably like way out there sort of thing. But I think it would be interesting.
At least you're internally consistent with what's been shown and known so far within the show itself, and that is way better than saying that it's going to be Data or Riker or anyone else that's in the future. So
the best one was the time traveling Spock from the future, and they're going to CGI him in. It's just like no.
It's because it's red. It has to deal with the red matter from the 2009 movie.
Yeah, of course.
Because there's only one red thing in the whole universe. But one thing about Burnham I found interesting is they really made a point to address her need to always save the day, because it's been a point of criticisms by a lot of people who don't like the show and like how it's always her fault. And I think they made a point of explaining it clearly that it's within the character's motivation and how she grew up, because she felt responsible for the death of her parents because of her wanting to stay an extra day to see Supernova, and it's kind of defined her and defined her that specific character trait of always feeling responsible for everything. We all know people like that. They don't all go to save the universe from Klingons and Red Angels, but we all kind of know people who feel
like they're the ones that kind of like have to deal with everything, and the ones that kind of like feel like them, but they have to be the ones that are responsible.
And it's not always a good character trait, and I think they even addressed it. Like Burnham knows it. It's not necessarily a good thing that she always feels that responsible, but it's part of what she is now, and it's going to be interesting to see now that she knows that her mother, because the thing is, her mother could still be alive, could still be dead. One thing is, we don't know what time frame the mother that we see now comes from.
That's true.
They could, she could have jumped. Again, it could do with what I've mentioned before, like when I spoke about Pike knowing that he's going to end up in that chair.
Or like a predestination paradox.
There you go, and then you have Burnham's mom doing tests and finding stuff in the Red Angel suit. Finds Michael, learn that she's going to die, and that's going to define her character, and is going to lead Michael to do the things that she done in season 1, and so on and so forth. And then because Michael helps stopping the war, and both she's able to help stop the war that would have been inevitable in any No, the way it was set up is someone would have taken the bait eventually, and there would still have been a war. So Michael or not, there would still have been a war. But thing is, Michael actually was integral in putting an end to it. So
yeah, I mean, then it kind of like, did she really start the war? I mean, that's another thing that I've had a few arguments with people about.
Yeah.
Because all she did was...
She didn't start the war. I think we can both agree on that. But she had a part in it. But the thing is, she feels responsible. Because it's kind of like when in Tapestry, when Q took out Picard out of time, and he put him back in the into another kind of himself that was just a junior science officer, and said, like Q said, don't worry about a universe, it can handle itself, and the Enterprise was there, it was not assimilated by the Borg and stuff like that. So I think it's the same kind of thing, except maybe for the ending the war part, because still has to be some kind of a dramatic effect at one point. So yeah, I that's my theory anyway, and I think it's going to play into what's been said about Pike and Spock and the future of them. So,
I hope so. I mean, I hope it's a good theory, and it's kind of not fan wankish, and I think that's kind of why I like it. Because it's not like, oh no, it's because you can only rehash so many Star Trek tropes over and over and over again before it becomes, whatever.
Hate it, love it or hate it, they have not been playing with Star Trek tropes. They've been playing with a lot of tropes, but not Star Trek ones.
Mm.
And it's refreshing.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of probably another reason why people don't like Discovery.
Because it does not fit their little box of what Star Trek should be. Because one issue with the main issue with Star Trek is that it's been produced by the same guy for 25 years. Namely Rick Berman. From TNG to Enterprise, so that kind of created a whole set of expectations, and
Yeah, I mean, because I don't know where Michael Piller left. I mean, I know he passed away, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
But yeah, it was always Rick Berman, Michael Piller, Brannon Braga, and Jerry Taylor.
Mm-hmm. That was mostly the Voyager writing crew. On DS9, you had Ira Stephen Bear mostly, and Ronald D. Moore, mostly starting season 3 when Michael Piller went to write for Voyager. So yeah, So
yeah. So, finishing up, I've got a couple of bits of news that I forgot to mention earlier.
Okay.
Synthetic alcohol is on its way.
Oh, yes. So all the headaches without the what?
Well, it's a funny thing you say that, actually. There's a scientist called David Nutt. Is researching and hoping to bring to the market after some, crowdfunding, because hey-ho, everything's crowdfunding nowadays. In an article with The Guardian, he talks about the journey on how it takes journey taken, and he's now planning to bring a synthetic alcohol to the market, even though he's calling it Alcosynth instead of obviously synthahol. He describes it as relaxing and socially lubricating qualities of alcohol, but without the hangovers, health issues, and risks of getting paralytic.
Oh,
so,
okay.
But he also claims that by 2050, alcohol will be gone. So, yeah,
I don't think so. It's it endured for thousands of years.
Yeah,
it's gonna be able to handle a few.
And plus,
years.
alcohol is it's like fermented potatoes and.
Yeah,
the hops and stuff like that. So anyway, yeah.
Mostly,
and last but not least,
you Irishman. It's mostly grain for beer.
No,
and
potatoes is
whiskey. Not whiskey. Vodka. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm right, and yeah.
Yeah, kinda, but yeah.
Potatoes. So yeah. So finishing up, Star Trek Online released a new roadmap for content dropping for the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months.
Yeah.
March. We're in March now. They've got a Peril over Parvo. You remember the episode Parvo?
Yeah.
Thing, or Pavo, however you want to pronounce it. And then there's an Operation. I'll bloody read this now. Operation Yeah, I can't pronounce that. Anyway, I can't really see it because of the typeface and the picture's quite small. There's an event basically in April, and it looks like we might be able to get the Baran, they sailed ship. First Contact Day event, and the Pavo stuff will hit console because for some reason I don't quite know why everything hits console about 3 to 4 months later on console. And then May is a new major update called Rise of Discovery. And they're saying starships will level with you. And then Peril over Pavo moves to console. And then June, fan wankish. They've got a picture of the 1701 Disco Prize.
Ooh.
So I'm hoping that you might be able to get your hands on that. And it'll be a new limited event. You can earn Zen chips by playing events. So in other words, you don't have to go out and spend real money.
Okay.
So obviously we won't hear anything about that probably until May. May probably is the soonest we'll hear anything about that. And then we have like the Tier 6 Rysian Corvette Riser event, the summer festival thing that I play for about a day and then turn it off because I just can't stand it.
Yeah,
it's the same with Christmas. I end up spending like Zen because I'm in a lifer anyway, so I save up on my Zen for like things like that, and then I just Levy and then buy the tokens with Levy because I cannot grind for like 14 days doing like the stupid flying the hover pack thing that just drives me potty. So I mean that's pretty much I think that's it for today. We've covered pretty much everything. I have a feeling tomorrow though we will probably get episode titles for 12, 13 and 14. Just a feeling.
Oh, I just saw David Warner at Star Trek Birmingham. The guy who played, most notably, the scientist in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, but might be also known as Gorkon or John Talbot in Star Trek 5 and 6.
Yeah, there's quite a few people actually going to that. I wrote a quick synopsis of it earlier.
Yeah, but because I it just kind of jumped at me because it's not the usual suspect at conventions. Yeah. And most likely because he's British and it's probably like in his backyard, so it's less of a hassle to...
Michelle Forbes is going to be at Destination Star Trek, along with George Takei, Anson Mount, Ethan Peck, Connor Trinner, Anthony Montgomery,
if you
Curtis.
Have I mentioned Robin Curtis. Go see her. She's a blast. April Taro, she played the cat lady in that one scene from Assignment Earth. She's recently been found by because it was kind of a mystery as to who played her, and only up to like I think last week or 2 weeks ago, Larry Nemechek found some papers in the Roddenberry archive and found the extras listing and found her name, and now she's doing the convention circuit because, well, probably the free money. Hey, we're paying you an all expenses trip paid to the UK. Would you like to come?
There is a I saw it was on. It's an exclusive, apparently, her coming into Destination Star Trek in the UK.
I know she's going to be at... There's a Hollywood show or convention. But maybe...
Yeah, world's first event signing.
Oh, okay. Mystery solved and a world first, yeah. So she might do that first, and then she's going to be in another show. Or actually, might be her actual first Star Trek convention. Like a little nuance there. See,
how much did you say your autographs were for in Las Vegas?
Like nothing below $80 US. like for the big name actors. Like for
So big name would be
like when I say big name is like the Discovery folk. They're the ones who are most expensive because I think they're probably taking a larger cut from the pie.
so you should come to the UK. It's only 45 quid, which is $59.
I might ask a few people to 45 quid, right? 45 pounds in CAD.
I don't know what
$80 Canadian. So yeah, I'll stick with. I think I'm less of a loser. Well, depending on conversions prices and stuff. Yeah, it's still kind of
$79.47.
Well, it's 80. Yeah, 80 Canadian, still cheaper than 80 US. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, if that was $80 US, that would be like 60 quid. So it's still not that.
Yeah, I mean, it's still saving kind of $20. So that's kind of nice. Might take a few hours.
Tracy Coco is going to be there as well.
I mean, I never met her so far, but a friend of mine. My friend. He has a podcast, but not with her, but with another Trek stunt, Leslie Hoffman. He does a podcast with her called Stunt Trek. Look it up. Jim is a good guy, but she went on that show a few weeks ago, and yeah, Lieutenant and Jay. She's had a lot of screen time, and you never really realized it. She had that punk.
Boy, Peck. Oh, bless. I kind of want to go and give him a hug. His autograph is kind of like cheaper than Anson Mount's.
Oh, well, he's like it's his first big role. Like if you look Ethan Peck on the IMDb, like he played in a few things and nothing huge. Like he played a few voices in Halo. He played in a few episodes of Gossip Girls and 10 Things I Hate About You. That he played young Kelso in that 70s show. And that's his greater claim to fame.
Even George Takei is only 45 quid.
Yeah, I think there's probably like a big markup on the Discovery actors because of they're hot. Not in the terms of the sexy way, but I mean in terms of like nobody has had the autographs yet, or so of course there's going to be more people because I mean George Takei has been doing the rounds for the last 50 years, so there's a greater chance of someone already having a photo of or an autograph with him. So
Connor Trinner, his are only 15 quid.
Ooh. But the thing is, I'm more into photo ops than autographs personally. I think
they're the same price.
Oh, that's nice.
Quid. 50, yeah. So they are literally 45 quid for an autograph, 45 quid for a photo shoot with Anson Mount. They seem to all be same price for autograph and same price for photo. JG Hertzler's 15 quid for photo and autograph, or you can.
Is the photo in costume? Because that's the thing.
No, costume will be 25 quid, and it's on Saturdays only. How much Robin Curtis? 15 quid, 15 quid. Photo shoot and costume as Savak, 25 quid. I wonder if all these people are going to be STLV.
Yeah, most likely they will. Here, just hold on. I have a few pictures with me here. Hopefully I don't know if they're going to show on camera there. Let's see. Oh, not so bad. There's a little bit of... There we go. So that's Robot Garon, and I got Martok here in my wonderful kilt. And where's... I got Anthony Rapp. Anthony Rapp touched me. I'm like...
Don't want to be saying that out loud.
And here's Wilson Cruz. I mean, just hold on, wait for it. There you go. I got, and the most funny one is the funniest one is the one I took with Gwyneth Wash. She played one of the Duras sisters. She was also there in a in costume. But the thing is, she took her prop dagger, and she tried to lift my kilt with it, and it made for the weirdest picture ever. And see, just want to see there, and she took her dagger and like she tried to go for the nuts, I guess. And I make this delightful face. But yeah, so if you hesitate between, if you not sure where to spend your money, go for the photo op. Unless you're something with the way you're dressed or look, or whatever. If you have a giant zit on your face. But again, it's something that can be photoshopped in later if you really, you know.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, nothing stops you like airbrushing and stuff because didn't you say that you did that?
Yeah, and the thing is now you can, which is weird because you can pay, because you get the printed out picture as a part of what you pay for, but to have the digital file, it's an extra.
Really?
Yep. And I think it has to do with the rights and having the original file. There's probably kind of a, I wouldn't say copyright, but still kind of a rights issue with the photographer. You know, handing out originals is still kind of,
even though it's a creation or whoever event, the photographer will still own the copyright on the thing, so it's probably a case of if you're going to get a digital copy, it's probably a case of they've had to buy a license or something. So,
and honestly, and you know, the thing is, you get the actual original from the camera. It's not like a reduced picture. So if you know your Photoshop, you know,
there's nothing worse than that. When you've paid for a photo and then they seem to think it's okay for them to just take a scan of the picture. It's just like, yeah, I'm not that stupid.
Anyway, so I think that wraps it up pretty nicely for what we had to say this week.
It does indeed.
How we can talk so much and yet have so little to say.
That's not true. We've covered everything. I mean, we've, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I can. You know, the mind goes in weird places. We're in my, you know, weird places when we talk.
Indeed, it does. Right. Okay. So on that note, then, I shall speak to you next week.
Cheers.
See you later.